Welcome to VarieHook Tutorials. In this video, I'll be demonstrating the Big Tatted Bunting and Big Tatted Curl stitch. So let's get started. Big Tatted Curl and Big Tatted Bunting are both stitches that can be very difficult and frustrating to do on a standard hook, but that we have solved with the VarieHook on the large shaft. Both are loaded the same way. I'm going to teach you how to do forward and reverse hitches. So to start both of these, we're going to take the yarn in your left hand and twist it backwards and hang it on the hook with your thumb going away from you. So there's a reverse hitch. Then for the forward hitch, we're going to spin it towards ourselves and hang it on like that. So all we're doing is reversing the direction of the twist every time we load it. We're keeping all of these up on large. There we go. Now, the thing that makes this stitch, both stitches, difficult with a standard hook is that when you try to draw these loops over the head, because they're the same size, it's very difficult to get them all over. And sometimes you even have to pick over one stitch at a time. With the VarieHook large shaft, all we have to do is grab a hold of this very last stitch, yarn over, push them all forward, and you can see that we have a long and lovely tunnel of stitches to draw through. Now, when we close this with our chain, we want our chain loop to be as long as these stitches are on the hook. So the easy way to do that is just to let them spread out and be fluffy, and then pinch it at the end so that our working yarn doesn't pull. So then when you go to yarn over and pull through, we've kept it the same length. All right, here we go. So the curl and the bunting are both formed in this way. The difference is in how they are tacked and the kind of stitches that we use to tack them. For the curl, we're going to use a double crochet, and that's going to allow these wraps to hang down at an angle. So we're going to yarn over for double crochet, and then we're going to go through the big eye here, and that's how we're going to tack. We'll skip one stitch and do a double crochet here. So we'll do our double crochet, grabbing our tacking thread there, and we're going to do that 3 times. So we'll yarn over again. We're all working on small at this point. Go through the eye, and then we're going to take the next stitch for the tack. We're spreading it out. Whoops. Come back, little loop. There we go. Once more, we yarn over to double crochet, through our curl, and then onto the 3rd stitch. And then I'm going to quickly finish this row with 2 more double crochets. All right, so what we have here is our curl, and it's a little wonky right here. We'll fix that on the return row. So we've skipped 1 stitch, so we have a little hole, but that hole is covered by the angle of our curl coming down, which is why we call it a curl. All right, so for the return row, I'm going to just show you where to put your stitch. There's our chain to turn. You can easily see which 3 stitches are the tacking stitches because they're the ones that come right after the space. So here's our space, and then 1, 2, 3. So the easy thing is that the tacking stitches don't need anything special. You just double crochet into each one, just like any other double crochet. And then when you get to the space left where we skipped a stitch, which is the top of our curl, we are going to go into this long, there's sort of the elongated top here from making the curl. We're just going to go right into that. It feels a little bit loose, and that's okay. I'll just finish this row. And so you see that the 2nd row of double crochet will pull up on the end of the curl here, and that will bring it up to line with the rest and allow it to hang down nicely. So the top of the curl is at the top of this row. The bottom of the curl stays at the bottom of the row because of the tacking. And so that gives you this lovely spread out look. And of course, you can choose to use more wraps if you wanted a fuller curl. So our Big Tatted Bunting is actually loaded the same way on the hook, but it needs a field of single crochet. So I'm just gonna bum across here really fast. because this one, we do not want an obvious angle. There will be a tiny bit of an angle because we're using single crochets to tack it, but we don't want, that's not a feature. So I'm going to change colors real quick just so you can see what we're doing. There we go. And put a couple singles. Now for the big tatted bunting, we are going to anchor it on both ends. And so we want to have a few more wraps so that it can stretch out in a full half circle shape. So I've already discussed how to do those wraps. And so we're going to draw through, holding the end stitch so they don't cinch down. Look at it go through all of them so beautifully from the large shaft. Spread these out nice and fluffy, same as we did before. Grab the end of your working yarn here so it doesn't collapse and pull a nice long loop. There we go. Now we're all on single crochets here. So the tacking is almost exactly the same. We're going to skip the first and go into the second. Since they're singles, we don't need to yarn over. So there's our eye, there's our skip, there's our second. I'm going to pull through with a single crochet. We're only going to tack twice through the bunting. And then our third tack, we're actually going to grab this last two little loops of our bunting here so that when we tack it to the next stitch, it keeps the end of our little curl up and shapes it into a bunting. The return row on the back will be exactly the same. When you get back here, you'll stitch your 1, 2, 3 just like normal with a single crochet. And when you get to this wide open one here, there's a little space you can find on the back, and you'll just do 1 in the long loop. Not worrying about this little small one that's in the transition. Well, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 in the long loop. So here is a big tatted bunting and the big tatted curl.